All right, it's 7 o'clock, so I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Town of Sheffield Select Board on February 22nd, 2022. This meeting is being recorded, and I believe CTSB is here, and we thank you for that. You can record the meeting also just after informing the chair. Let me introduce the Select Board members, all of whom are in attendance this evening: Martin Mitzoff, Bob Kilmer, Renee Wood. Also with us, we have our Town Administrator, Rhonda Lombard, and our Assistant Town Administrator, Jill Hughes. Our first order of business is approval of meeting minutes, and we're going to pass over that for this evening. So we'll go to our second point of business, which is a public hearing on there was a notice of this in the paper, but we're going to be having a public hearing, which I'm going to open right now, in accordance with MGL Chapter 87, Public Shade Tree Law, Section 3. It says this Town of Sheffield tree warden will hold a public hearing regarding an application from National Grid to remove or prune public shade trees on this evening at 7 o'clock. The meeting is virtual, and basically the hearing will be about moving private and public trees along the main three-phase lines which serve the community of Sheffield. The work is recommended to remove hazard trees and prune for additional clearance. And this is going to be that the arborists for National Grid have identified 42 town-owned trees for removal and 1 to trim along County Road and Maple Avenue. All the trees are located in the public way. And my understanding is that all of the trees have been identified, and we'll ask National Grid to just tell us how that is the case. And people can go, I've had a chance to go look at them. So I'm hoping that's going to be enough of the very lengthy legal notice of this public hearing to go ahead with it. And do we have a representative from National Grid?
Hello.
Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Not too bad. How are you today?
Good. Would you like to go ahead and discuss this for our group of assembled people?
Yes, not a problem. So we're going to be coming through to do our normal maintenance along the three-phase lines that run down County Road and Maple Ave on the 1109 W1, which feeds Great Barrington, Monterey, New Marlborough, and a small part of Sheffield. Comes all the way down Maple Ave, almost until you hit the intersection there of the main road through town. We're basically going to be trimming out the normal trim spec and clearing out all of the ingrowth underneath the lines, about 8 feet off of the three-phase, to clear out a lot of this regrowth and everything in the community that hasn't been taken care of in a few years. Along with that, we've identified some hazard trees we'd like to remove, mostly stuff that's dead and dying or stuff that is split since the last time we came in through town. And that's pretty much what we're doing. All of the trees were tagged with a hearing notice so that they were easily identifiable. Homeowners either got a notice at their house or were mailed paperwork for the trees also. I haven't heard back from everybody, but not everybody lives in town or even in Massachusetts. So, but I've heard back from a bunch of the homeowners already. And that's pretty much what we're planning on doing. And just making sure that it's okay with you guys if we take out all those dead and dying trees, a couple of split ones. I think there was even one on there the tree warden asked me if we could take care of. That was right up kind of on the edge of a driveway, but ended up being town, not private. Dead hemlock, if I remember correctly.
Okay,
so
Brian, do the private owners of these trees, trees that are on private land, they must give their permission to you.
For
or-
anything that's on private property, it would be permission with the private property. But even for the town trees, we try to get abutting notices out and permission forms, because some homeowners want to keep the wood, some homeowners don't want to keep the wood, but it also lets them know what's going on within the area in front of their house.
All right. And when are you planning approximately to do this?
I don't have a set date. The tree crews are working in Monterey, or not Monterey, Great Barrington. They are working up by the substation on Park Street. Once they're done with that work up there, which is probably 3-4 weeks out, I would guess. Maybe a little longer, maybe a little shorter, depending on storms and such. And then we would be coming into town to do this work.
Okay, so with this public hearing, we've had our presentation by Ryan Chris of National Grid. So let's open this up to comments and questions by select board members, and then we'll open it up to comments or questions by the public. And I guess you can, for those of you who don't have your video on, you can just either raise your hand, or and we'll just try and work our way through that. But first of all, board members, let's start with Martin. Any questions or comments?
No questions or comments for me. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Ryan.
How about you, Bob?
No questions.
Okay. Any members of the public? I guess just unmute yourself and just ask your question or make your comment if you would. If I don't see anything pretty soon, I'll assume that there are no comments or questions from the public. Rhonda, how about you as our town administrator? Any questions or comments?
I don't have any questions, Renee. I'm all set. This has been on the website, the town website, and we haven't received any calls or questions from anybody in the public.
Okay. All right. So with that, I guess we'll go ahead and close this public hearing and then make our decision. So I do need a motion from one of the board members.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so it's a motion to close this public hearing, and this requires a roll call vote. So Bob Kilmer,
Aye.
Martin Mitzoff,
Aye.
Renee Wood, aye. All right, so the public hearing is now closed, and now the board will deliberate and make its decision. So board members, how would you care to proceed?
I'd make a motion that we go ahead and authorize National Grid to do said tree work as prescribed in the application.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any information or any other discussion on this amongst board members?
No.
All right, then let's do a roll call vote. Martin Mitzoff,
Aye.
Bob Kilmer,
Aye.
Renee Wood, aye. All right, Ryan, it's been approved to do the town-owned trees as outlined in your application, and Town Hall will get that information to you. Are we good?
Yeah, we should be fine. We can email back and forth for anything else we might need.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. All right, let's go on to our next item, which is item number 3 on the agenda. And that's really to announce that the Board of Selectmen have entered into a new contract. It's contract renewal with our town administrator. That term on that is a 3-year contract beginning July 1st, 22, with a 5% increase. It also has 2 optional 1-year renewal periods that, if elected, the town administrator can discuss that with the Board of Selectmen at that time. Board members, any other comments on that contract that you wanted to add?
No.
Okay, so let's go on to number 4, which is also to announce a contract renewal with our Chief of Police, Eric Munson. That is a 5-year contract that will start July 1st, 22. The chief received a 5% increase, and I believe it was a $10 increase on his cell phone that he uses at his personal cell phone that he uses at work. And I believe that was the basic of the contract. These are public documents, so if anybody wants them, they can just make a records request. I'm just going to ask again whether either of the board members have anything to contribute, add to this.
Good.
No.
thanks.
No. Rhonda, anything for you to add on the chief's contract?
No.
Okay, so let's go to our next item, which is we're seeking just kind of a public input on the Complete Streets and Shared Spaces grant that we discussed at the last meeting. Specifically, this grant is to get some highway equipment, a little subcompact John Deere tractor that would have a snow blower, a blade on it to also remove snow debris, also a mower on it. We're requesting that to go along with 6 bike racks that would hold 7 bicycles each for placement, 1 at the town library, 2 at the covered bridge, and likely the remainder of the 3 at the town park. This is to promote and increase both pedestrian usage by clearing off town-owned sidewalks and town-owned paths in town parks, and keep other areas, I don't want to say cleaner of debris, but cut lawn and remove weeds, et cetera, where a regular piece of highway equipment would not be able to get in. So we had some public comment, and thank you, Pat Levine, at our last meeting, but I just wanted to see if there was any additional public comment on this. And that also includes from board members. We're looking to submit this by the deadline, which is March 1st. Any additional public comment? Laura?
I'll raise my actual hand here.
Yeah, you got it up twice. Good.
Now I have to turn it off. I probably would have been better if I'd had this conversation with you out of here, but I just wanted to know, it says complete streets on the agenda and you said shared streets.
Oh, I'm sorry. It should be shared streets and spaces.
Okay. So then,
yeah, I have to tell you, these complete streets and the shared streets, this is the 4th round on the shared streets. Sometimes there's too many streets. And I know that is my fault on the agenda. It's not Rhonda's. The board has already decided on this to submit it, but we're just seeking any additional input. So I don't think we're in violation of the open meeting law. So I'm going to go ahead and accept public input.
okay, well,
Thank you, Laura.
when you get to complete streets, I'll have input about that.
Yeah, we're supposed to have that $400,000 grant finished by June of this year. The major work to be done is on Berkshire School Road on the sidewalks. And we just basically got so little work done last year because of contractors and weather. So we may be seeking an extension on that. So, but that's in queue. All right. Does anybody else have any public comment on what should have said hi Jane, the shared streets and spaces? Okay, thank you. That will go ahead and get submitted likely this week, and we'll go forward. I'm assuming that if Bob and Martin had anything to say, they would be saying it right now, right? Okay, thank you. And Rhonda, I'm sorry for that mess up on the agenda. That's my fault. All right, so now we have discussion, possible public action regarding one-day alcohol permits for Dewey Hall. We have that information in front of us, and that is for 2 separate dates, February 25th and March 4th. Rhonda, do we have the insurance?
We do. We have that on file, Renee.
Okay, great. So this is a complete application, and board members,
Yes, I'll make a motion that we approve the one-day alcohol permit to serve beer and wine on February 25th, 2022 and March 4th, 2022 for Dewey Hall at 91 Main Street.
Second.
okay, any discussion? This requires a roll call vote. Bob Kilmer,
Aye.
Martin Mitzoff,
Aye.
Renee Wood, aye. Excellent. Our next item, I hope everybody knows that Town Hall is now open as of today. The Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 8 to 4. Wednesday is still a closed day. But if you need to make an appointment or talk to someone there, the phone number is there, but if we can schedule it on one of the open days, even if it's just to pick up something, that would still be better. But I'll ask Rhonda if she wants to add anything on that.
I just want to clarify that it's 9 to 4, Renee. And
Oh, I'm
we-
sorry. 9 to 4. I'm getting you guys to work another hour. That's not good. I have a hard enough time being up at 8 and ready to go. So it's 9 to 4. Okay. And this, I believe, regards whether the board wants to go ahead and continue the Zoom format, go back to in-person meetings. Comments?
I'm definitely ready to go back to in person. I think the numbers are where they need to be, and I think it's safe enough to get back together.
Yep.
Martin.
And my only comment is I know Stockbridge and some of our neighboring towns are contemplating continuing to offer the ability for either hybrid or Zoom meetings, depending upon those people involved. And I would really like us to give that adequate consideration as well. We do get a lot of participation on these Zoom meetings. And you could consider that, I think, too, with a hybrid format as well. So as much as I like in-person meetings, this offers people other alternatives, particularly on a nasty night like tonight.
Okay. One of the problems is we don't offer a hybrid meeting, unfortunately. We have put in for a grant to get that technology to do that. But at the present, I think unless some of the smaller committees are figuring out how to do this, I think we've discussed on the select board that we just haven't figured out how to adequately do that and allow both our town administrator and our assistant town administrator to participate in the meetings. So I believe also one of the things that while we're talking about select board meetings, let us also just make sure that everyone understands, if I am correct, that committee meetings, we could also say can be in person or via Zoom, excuse me, or if the committee has the capacity to do it, which I think some of the smaller committees do, to hold a hybrid. So I think we're talking not only about the select board here, but also about giving kind of a clear message to other committees, of which we have several chairs on this call, as to what their guidelines would be. Laura, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we have had hybrid where we just set up a computer and it's a small enough group so we can
Mhm.
capture everyone. And it does encourage participation. And I'm not sure if this is the right moment to talk about it, but I'd also like to see that for the annual meeting. Should I wait till you get further down the agenda?
Yeah, let's wait. Okay, let's wait on that. All right. So Rhonda, do you want to join this conversation?
So I'm hoping that if we're awarded that grant, we'll be able to buy the proper equipment that'll make it easier to do a hybrid. The board needs to decide today whether they want to go back to in-person or continue on Zoom. The boards and commissions have been given the choice by their chairman or their membership to decide which way they want to go. And just in answer to Laura's question, I don't believe that annual or special town meetings, it's legal to have a hybrid or a Zoom. I believe they all have to be in person. There was just some chatter on the listserv with town administrators today saying that they haven't made the change to allow that to happen for town meetings.
I've seen a little bit of some different chatter, but it's obviously something that we need to square away. So I think what should come out of Rhonda's conversation is that commission boards and committees, other than the select board, it's business as usual. You choose how you want to do this. And just be aware that if you want to be in person, you want to be Zoom, you want to be hybrid. And just be aware that we have had some actions taken against a board that I think was meeting in person, but also advertised their meeting to be Zoom, but let some members of the public be there in public. So that got some concerns. I think that was from the, I don't know who it was, the open meeting law or the AG, somebody got in trouble on that. So if you're going to meet in person, you need to let people in to the meeting, and I'll stop with the lecture. But so we have, Martin, would you attend Zoom in-person meetings, or I want the board to be a full board. And if that means that we need to continue Zoom meetings, then that's what we'll do. If you're willing to meet in person, then we'll see if there's enough of a motion and votes to do that. So,
Renee, I'm not sure I understand your question.
will you meet in person?
For the select board, yes.
Yes, okay. So, and Bob has said he will. So let's just have a motion and see if we can settle this until the next potential issue where we need to discuss it again. Is there a motion on either staying with Zoom or going to in-person meetings? So we don't have the capacity on this board to do a hybrid.
I make a motion that we go back to in-person meetings.
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any further discussion? All right, so let's do a roll call vote. Martin Mitzoff,
Aye.
Bob Kilmer,
Aye.
Renee Wood, aye. So this means that our first meeting in March, we will go back to in person. We will ask that people wear masks if they can, but that's that. All right, anything else to discuss under meeting formats? Board members or Rhonda?
No.
Okay, so our next item was asked to be put on the agenda by Sheffield Faves, Stephanie Blumenthal, a discussion possible action regarding community garden. But she talked with me today, and they need just a little bit more time before they present this to the board. So we're going to pass over on this item. Our next item is discussion possible action regarding internet survey on the website. This is on our packet. This has been an incredible effort that Martin's been spearheading. So Martin, would you like to lead this discussion?
Yes, as we announced, I think in our previous select board meeting, the town of Sheffield is going to be rolling out an internet survey. There will be links to the town website or at the town website to be able to conduct the search for each person to be able to take the survey. This is a survey about the quality of the internet service that you as citizens have now, your personal home-based internet system, and what potential improvements you might like to see as we consider, as the select board and the town administrator consider the possibility of a town-owned fiber optic network to be built out, owned and operated essentially by the town of Sheffield, with enormously increased capacities with both upload and download speeds. And what that translates to is the ability to stream video, audio, the whole thing, in a very significant fashion across the entire town. This is a process that we're undertaking that is really about social equity as much as anything else, as much about technology. We've heard complaints, and I know there's been a lot of discussion over the years that what you have or what we have isn't good enough, or in fact that some people don't have service. So we've heard what you've been saying. We are rolling out this survey. As I understand it, the target rollout date is at our next board meeting, select board meeting, the first week in March. Is that correct, Renee, Rhonda?
Yes, Martin, we have it all set up on our end for the website. We're just
Okay.
waiting to hear back from Surtech. So I'll call you tomorrow to talk to you a little bit about that.
Okay,
And Martin, if it's possible, I would love, our next meeting is on March 7th.
yes,
That's like about 2 weeks. I would love to get this rolled out prior to that, if possible.
okay,
Okay, so I think when it's ready to go, we can do an email blast and let people know. But if it's the 7th, it's the 7th. Okay.
okay, good.
I had, you had given us some information, and in our packet is just some edits that I made more to emphasize the internet survey part of it, rather than that we've made any decision to try and pursue a town-owned broadband system. Are you ready with everything? I don't know if you incorporated these or they made any difference, but I'm just going to leave that to you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
We're pretty much ready to go. I'll talk with Rhonda tomorrow. I've been in regular contact with the folks at Surtex. Surtex, by the way, is our contractor that's helping us with the survey and will be helping us both get the data from you all. When you as an individual homeowner take the survey, that data is going to be compiled and delivered essentially to the select board for us to evaluate the response and so forth. As Renee said, we've made no decision to build out a fiber optic network system in the town. That's going to require a lot of effort, but we first want to gauge demand and what the issues are. That's what the purpose of the survey is. So I'm going to again encourage every homeowner, every person in the town of Sheffield, including business owners, to take the survey.
Bob, do you have anything to add?
No, nothing to add. It's quite well done.
Okay. Also, Martin, did you go over how important it is to take this survey at home?
I'll spend a second on that. Thank you. So what this survey does is, again, it's really focused on your home service. And even if you don't have home service, but the idea is that you take it from home, and at the start of the survey, there's going to be what's called a speed test. And you start the survey by clicking on that speed test. It takes probably about roughly 15 seconds, maybe a little bit more, to conduct a survey of your internet location. That information is only helping us understand that you do or don't, or potentially do or don't, have upload and download speed issues. And the reason we're asking you to take it from home is because that's where we want you to tell us your opinion about the service that you have at home. If you take your portable, your phone or whatever, your smartphone, and go to Great Barrington and take it, that's fine, but that's not really what we want you to do. If it's possible, if you could sit in your home and take the survey and take that initial speed test, that data will be presented to us. The sole purpose of getting that data, again, is simply to understand the upload and download speeds throughout the town of Sheffield. We're not looking for any personal information. We can't abuse that information or that data. It's really to help us understand, in light of the questions that you'll be answering, of which there are, I believe, 12 or 13, about the quality of the service, how you use the internet, things like that. All of that is going to help us understand, is this something that we, the town of Sheffield, as a community, should be undertaking?
The other thing that's really important is we are getting ready to enter into contract negotiations with Spectrum Charter Communications. And while that is only for cable service, and there will be another survey coming out in March on just the cable for those who use Spectrum for cable, the internet speeds underlie what comes down for the cable. Also, if we are going to pursue anything about a new broadband fiber system, we need to have this data. Every grant that I've looked at, and I've been watching this carefully, they want to know what speeds are. And most of us don't know how to go in and do our upload and download speed. So it is hoped that with this survey, if you take it at home, that data is going to be captured automatically by the vendor doing this. And we will have that information because I do think there's going to be money coming out if this is something to pursue. And having that data will give us a little bit of a head start on this. So really important, please do it. Appreciate that. All right, so we'll look forward to that, Martin. Martin, Rhonda, Bob, anything else to add on this?
No,
Okay, so
but
let's
Jane
move.
Smith has her hand up.
Jane, I'm sorry.
Okay. One question is, does the survey include how much we pay? Because like, I have good internet speed, but I pay a lot of money for it. I would rather it go to the town of Sheffield and like, you know what I mean? But will that survey encompass some of that for those of us who pay for upgraded speeds?
Renee, do you mind if I answer that?
Oh, no, you have to, because I don't have the survey in front of me anymore.
Okay, so
It's your
thanks.
baby.
Actually, that's an important question, Janie. Thank you very much. The survey does ask, what do you pay now for internet service? And it goes a little bit further, because with a fiber optic network, the ability to have both a fiber optic internet connection as well as very high quality voice over internet service, we're asking in that same question, tell us what you pay now for your internet service. Don't include things like, Hulu subscriptions and things like that. What is the fundamental rate that you pay for the internet? Plus, if you pay for a landline telephone like we do, please add that in. And I'm just going to give you an example. So we pay at our home $75 a month for very basic Spectrum internet service. We don't have cable TV or anything like that. And we pay $95 a month for our Verizon landline bill. So if you add those two together, that's what we're paying for what's so-called connectivity. There's also a question in the survey later on, based upon, again, some of the questions that you've answered and the opinions you've given us about your service, what would you be willing to pay for a fiber optic network connection to your home? And you'll be able to compare and contrast when you're taking the survey. The rates that we've been seeing from other towns around us who have taken on their own fiber optic network are considerably lower than the $160, $65 a month that my wife and I pay now for those two services. Considerably lower than that. So just something to think about as we contemplate this. Does that help answer your question, Janie?
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? If anyone has one, just kind of say it. Okay, we're going to move on. Next, we have just discussion regarding a special town meeting date. And Rhonda, would you handle this for us, please?
Sure. After setting the date and changing it multiple times, we have finally set one in concrete for April 4th. and that will be at the school at 6 o'clock. Most of the articles will deal with zoning, but the warrant has not put together yet, but I expect it will be done in the next week or so that everyone can have a look at what we're looking at for that meeting.
And well, the fire department has already volunteered to help seat people, and we don't know what the protocols will be at that time. That's a little over a month away, but we will, adhere to protocols. It will be in person, Laura. We will check into that issue with for the May annual town meeting, which is going to be May 2nd. We're pretty firm on that date. All right. So, any questions on that? Yes, Laura.
I just wanted to find out who I could write at the state level about this because, and I just would like to take a minute to state my opinion about it, which is that I think that the in-person only annual town meetings especially discriminate against people with disabilities, which is one protected class, and then other people who are not protected, like mothers who have to stay home and take care of their kids, or people who are ill that day, but not in general, or it's a really bad weather day. Or, there's a long list of people who won't come to that meeting and are therefore not voting on it. And it's always struck me as funny that whenever we're voting on other issues that are at state or federal level, we get to vote by mail or, a long list of different ways to cast our vote. Whereas at these meetings, you have to be there in person and you have to stay until, the whole night, which a lot of people can't even handle that. So I just feel like it's, we're in a different age now, and that we could make it possible for everyone to be there and for everyone to vote, even if the voting happened over a period of time like the other voting does.
The governor is probably the one, in my opinion, that I would write to. He is the one who issued the order on suspending. He suspended a law that said that you had to, pass by the select board if you wanted to meet on Zoom. The issue, as I see it, is just an incredible amount of technology that's required to facilitate that. How do you do it? You don't do it over a Zoom meeting. But I would write to the governor and ask for, they've gotten a fair amount of money. And he has sent a lot of that money to address equity issues. And maybe this is one that he just hasn't had a chance to think about.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Anybody else have anything for Laura? Any ideas? Okay. So let's go on to, we have a new item that was put on the agenda earlier today, and that is an update from our town clerk regarding our upcoming town elections and registration to vote in those elections, as well as the April 4th special town meeting. Phyllis, it's
Hi,
yours.
everyone. Good morning. Good morning, good evening. And I just want to pass along a couple of deadlines that are probably going to be important in the next couple of weeks. First of all, in light of the special town meeting, I wanted to make any residents that are not yet registered voters of the town aware that we will have a deadline to do so on Friday, March 25th. You do not have to wait until that date to register. You have online opportunities. Now that we're open to the public, you may come into the office, fill out a registration card. If you have to be going to the registry of motor vehicles, that's another option. Although if you do something like that, I would be sure to follow up with our office to be sure that we are in receipt of an accurate registration. We've been having a few issues with that recently. So the next deadline, since we're talking about registration deadlines, for the May 2nd and May 9th, those are combined events for us. Deadline will be Tuesday, April 12th to register to vote. And again, this is only for people that have not yet registered. If anyone has any questions pertaining to their registration status, or they have questions about registering in Sheffield or Massachusetts, we've had a lot of new folks come into town who we welcome, but there've been a lot of questions and we'd be happy to field those questions. The other piece that's kind of connected to that I just wanted to remind our residents, the annual town census went out the first week in January. We're still a little bit behind on returns, so we would encourage any residents that have not yet returned those forms to do so. This does have an impact on your voter registration, and we're trying to avoid as much impact as possible going into the spring season. The other issue that we found with the census, the ones that have been returned, a lot of folks are trying to register to vote on that form. They're also making party enrollment changes, and that's not something that is allowed. So if you are interested in the upcoming events and you think that you registered to vote on your census form, maybe give us a call. We're doing our best to reach out to folks as those forms come across our desks. It's not always possible for us to get everyone by those deadlines. So that's a little bit of a concern for us. I would, at this point, go into nomination papers, which are available for our local annual town election, which is going to be on Monday, May 9th. We have nomination papers available for 4 offices: moderator, which is a 1-year term; selectman, which is there's 1 3-year term; library trustees, 1 3-year term, and we have 2 seats on the planning board open this year. Those are 3 years each. The deadline to obtain nomination papers is Friday, March 18th. The deadline to submit those papers back to the Board of Registrars for certification will be that following Monday, March 21st. If anyone is interested, I would not recommend waiting until the 18th to obtain your papers. It doesn't give you a lot of time to gain signatures, and especially just be sure that you have certified nomination papers before the deadline. You just want to make sure that you're not leaving that to the last minute. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions. I hope I covered what I needed to cover. I think probably we'll be updating the website with this information sometime this week, and phone calls are always welcome.
Any questions? Okay.
Okay.
Was that a question, someone?
No, it was me.
Okay, all right. We'll also, for the May 9th, you'll have absentee ballots available.
We will, and typically they come out 3 weeks to a month ahead of the election. There
Okay.
will be no early voting for our local election, though.
Okay, just be at the senior center.
Things
Okay.
are a little bit fluid right now with the legislature, but it looks like the local elections, we will have absentees available. Those can be requested at any time. We'll
Okay.
also put an updated form online on the website as well.
So we do have a number of elected offices that are going to need candidates, including those who are incumbents may wish to run, but this government in Sheffield runs on to a great deal on these elected offices. So I do encourage people to get their papers out and then get them back. And Martin, your seat is up for a re-election this year. Do you have, or is up for election? Do you have anything you want to say?
No, thank you.
Okay, all right. All right, let's go forward then. Our next item is discussion and possible action regarding Board of Health nursing contract for fiscal year 23. Pat Levine, I see, is with us, who's the chair of the Board of Health. Rhonda, would you walk us through this, please?
So I received the contract in front of you from Pat, and I wanted to bring it to the board to get their approval before it was signed. I think that Pat or someone on the Board of Health would be best to explain all of the pieces to the contract better than I would be able to do.
Okay, Pat, can we ask you to do that, please?
Sure. The objective here is to make good use of the money that was formerly directed to the Visiting Nurse Association that no longer exists. And the effort on the part of the Board of Health is to build into its systems resiliency and capacity and preparedness. And one of those issues is vaccinations. And it's not something that can be covered by the public health excellence grants, which we're benefiting from significantly with outstanding public health nurses, including a new one recently appointed, not a nurse, but an employee in the collaborative, namely Jane Smith. We're trying to, as I said, build up our own ability within the collaborative of handling what comes down the road next. And the first issue for us right now is vaccinations, both the equipment for storage and the actual purchase of vaccines themselves, which are actually very expensive. Eventually, that latter item, vaccines, will be covered by insurance reimbursements, but getting started is important to build up our ability to start serving our constituency in South County. The other element of this is that it really is an ongoing relationship with the collaborative in trying to continue to fund various programs that are going to help our public health standing. And so it is in part because the money that the towns had dedicated previously by the, I don't know what to call it, by law exactly, but the public health excellence grants does not allow any of that money to supplant existing municipal funding for public health services. So we're looking for the best ways possible to make that happen. And this was the determination. The amount of money involved is oddly very close to the amount that we had, that we have available in that budget line. It was, however, determined through use of the EQV data set, the equivalent valuation data set that is also used for household waste program and other things, that apportions the expenses on an equitable basis across all towns involved. So it comes out very close, but it's strictly an oddity, not anything that was contrived to match the money. That's my statement for here.
Board questions for Pat? Martin?
I have no questions. I'm acquainted with the program.
Bob?
My only question is for the vaccines, wouldn't they normally be done through your primary care physician?
Some people do it that way, but not always. In the past, the Berkshire Public Health Alliance that we're also a member of in North County has been doing school programs, school vaccinations, trying to get that community done in an efficient way. That will not be the case now, and we're looking at how that's going to happen, whether it's going to be the collaborative or the Alliance will pick it up again. Jane, do you have any comment on that aspect?
Yeah, thank you, Pat. So actually we're working closely with the actual doctors, as well as other providers. Like we met with CHP today, and we've been working with Fairview, who has historically provided in Otis, Sheffield, Great Barrington, and I think that those three Fairview has been handling in the past, but just because capacity issues, they will no longer be providing those clinics. So Bob, when kids are already going to be going to their primary care physician, or adults will be going to their primary care physician, yes, that is like an outlet, and they certainly would get it at that time. But we have found that, we really want to hit people with the flu vaccine in September, October, November. And if people's primary care visit doesn't match up for this, this is an easy way for them to get vaccinated at no
And
cost to
also
them.
there's some programs you can get it, for instance, at the local pharmacy, but who knows how long that's going to last. And it isn't a commitment on CVS's part or Walgreens' part. And we're trying to backstop that kind of thing to be sure that we have the protection that our community needs.
So let me follow up on Bob's question, if I might. So right now we do, I believe, at least 2 flu clinics at the senior center. For a number of years, Big Y has been doing this. Is that in danger of being dropped?
You never know.
I think that those were arranged for by the senior center. So, I mean, even at these flu clinics, you might get like 100 people would be a really successful flu clinic. So, you know, when you think about the numbers, you know, I think it's all hands on deck when it comes to be flu season time, because it is a truncated period of time. And so, so I don't think that we're trying to have anything go away. It would just matter, you know, what the senior center wanted to do. I know that CHP has come to the senior center. We spoke to them today, and they're prioritizing reaching some populations that are less connected with healthcare systems. So I think it's just going to be one of those moving targets where we're going to try to figure out, you know, what we can each bring the piece of the puzzle. But I think there's more than enough need for it in our area and not enough capacity. Or there's, you know, I think it matches capacity.
So we're talking about vaccines. One of them is flu. And of course, the COVID situation was just a crazy mess for the last couple of years. So in Berkshire Health Alliance, let me just understand, in Fairview Hospital, particularly at the hospital, are not going to be doing flu clinics?
I don't know what their plan is. And I'm not sure, frankly, that they do. Jane, you've been in conversation. Go ahead.
So Fairview Hospital is going to continue to do their friends and family, which they'll do out of the large conference room on the ground floor conference room. So they're going to continue to do those. They aren't going to be coming to the schools this year. And presumably the Public Health Collaborative would be providing those vaccination clinics. And then if there's any large scale events as far as COVID, you know, if we end up having boosters or another age group opens, then the Southern Berkshire Public Health Collaborative will be working with the rest of the county to fill the need in South County.
And so other than the school clinics, where would these events take place?
Presumably
in
at
Sheffield?
the town hall. And you know, if they've had them in the past at town hall, certainly at the senior center,
The library.
the library. And then we'll
And-
also, okay,
Go ahead.
go ahead. Sorry, Renee.
No, go ahead.
Well, and the other things that we're really, the other things that we're really excited to bring. Okay, so the conversation right now is around the vaccines, because there is that initial like startup costs that kind of, and what happens with that money is it goes into an account and used for the next year. So any insurance reimbursements that come back will benefit the towns. But like Medicare Part B takes up to a year to reimburse. And so it really is just taking money that was going to go to the VNA, giving it to the collaborative, but and then that money will be used to provide programming that isn't included in the actual grant application.
So there's going to be money coming back to the town from,
No,
that's
it
what
will
I'm
go-
sorry, that's just what I thought I heard.
I think Jane did say it that way, but in fact, the money would go back to the collaborative, which then will not have to come back to the town asking for vaccine money again, because it will start building up a reserve that can be used.
Okay, so then under the terms of the agreement, if this were to pass, I would like to see that this is not an annual cost, which it's stated as, because you just said it should not be an annual cost.
The vaccine won't be an annual cost. There are other programs that we're going to engage in, whether it's workforce development or Board of Health training, capacity building of various sorts, that will cost. A new invoice, a new set of issues would be presented annually, but we want to make clear that this is not a one-time thing and the money is going to disappear and
Okay.
back into the town
Yeah,
budget.
Pat, the problem I have with this, when we engaged with the VNA, we had a very specific list of things that they were responsible to do. And they were paid a certain amount of money. And to be honest, if they could get it done in less than that money, then great. If they didn't get it done, then they were out the money. Okay, that's probably why they don't have them anymore. I don't know. But I just find this to be, you're talking about workforce capacity, doing this and that. That's not listed in this agreement. So I find this agreement to be troubling in that I think what you're trying to accomplish, but it's pretty loose. It doesn't say here that if this money is not used, it comes back to the town. I just am uncomfortable that it's not specific enough so that we know as the board more about what we're getting.
If you want to drop that part at this point for the sake of moving the whole thing forward, I'm perfectly fine with that. I just would say that going forward, there will be another request to spend that money, which needs to stay in the budget because it was for nursing services, public health services, and that's what we're going to be using it for in one fashion or another. I understand that it's not as specific right now as you'd like it to be. So just scratch that. And next year we'll send another bill for a different set of services, or maybe the same if something goes wrong or doesn't work or the demand rises for a new kind of vaccine. That's fine.
Okay. The other thing that the visiting nurses used to do, and I usually read it, especially when I was on the Board of Health, and then even when on the Select Board, they would give a monthly report of how many Maven cases, even breaking down what the stuff was, and they would give a report on what they did, how many clinics they did. They did the foot clinics, they did blood pressure clinics, they did vaccines, I think, but they gave a complete report and we saw it monthly. Is there anything that's coming back to the town on this?
Absolutely. Amy Hart has done an outstanding job giving us information on COVID, on the cases, on the tracking, on the programs, the vaccination programs, the vaccinations were from the Alliance. Well, yet another collaboration group. But I'm happy to make that information available to the Select Board if you wish to see it. It certainly is available and they're doing a tremendous amount of work. Much of it in the last 2 years, last year that they've been active, focused on COVID.
I know this is a terrific grant that they've got. I just like to, kind of compare as much apples and apples. I know the world changes, but I think having that information available to Select Board, whether members want to read it or not, it just kind of gives us an opportunity to see where the money is going. Okay.
Fine.
Okay, so I kind of got my questions answered. Jane?
And the other thing that's happening in this next few months is we're doing a needs assessment for the town. So like, for instance, in Sheffield, maybe they want, so we're definitely doing the blood pressure clinics, but like if Sheffield says, we would really like a foot clinic, or we would really like tick education programs to be made available at this place or not, or we would really like fall prevention done for our seniors. So we're going to be able to have the ability to focus on Sheffield, what Sheffield needs. And so that would be a really great, the results of that will really lead a lot of what Sheffield gets because it will be based off of what Sheffield feels that they want.
Right, that's good to hear. So you're saying that under Section 2, there will be blood pressure clinics?
Yes, they suspended them just with this last surge. So they're not doing them in February, but starting back up in March, I believe.
Okay.
Blood pressure.
Why don't we add that to the contract?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I think it just strengthens, and again, the more we know about what we're getting, the easier it makes it to approve it. So I myself am willing to move forward with this, with annual cost dropped and blood pressure clinics added, the reports to be forwarded to the select board, and maybe Janie or Pat to come back to the select board once that needs assessment is done and share that with us and the town
Sure.
whenever it's finished. So are any other board members ready to take action?
Can we treat that as a motion, Renee?
Sure.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Discussion? All right, let's do Rhonda, any input from you before we vote?
No.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Bob Kilmer,
Aye.
Martin Mitzoff,
Aye.
Renee Wood, aye. Excellent. Okay.
Thank
The next item, thank you, Pat and Janie. I think this is going to be a great job for you, Janie. I think you finally found your home. I'm very excited
I'm so
about
excited about this.
Okay,
I
really
can hardly
do.
stand it. So thank
Yeah.
you.
All righty. The next item is just a Rest of River update, which I'd like to do very quickly. I know some people have been following this. It seems like, it's been going on since 2000, but I just wanted to let you know, because I had announced earlier in giving an update that the Environmental Appeals Board, which is an arm of the federal EPA, had heard the case in September from the appeal by several citizens group challenging a number of items in the 2020 EPA Rest of River revised permit, which also included the settlement agreement, which the 5 towns had entered into along with some environmental groups, the EPA, GE, and Pittsfield. So finally, that decision by the EAB was released. It was released on February 8th. I'm doing an article for the Sheffield Times, so you can put in there the website. It's a fascinating read. It's not a light read, but it's a 125-page decision, which goes over everything in excruciating detail, as well as really gives an incredible history of this. The bottom line is that the EAB basically, as they say, issued an order denying review. And it was a denial of the citizens group petition on all counts. The next step is for the citizens group, if they wish, to file an appeal to the First Circuit Appeals Court in Boston. They can do that within the next 90 days to start that process. But unless this goes to the Supreme Court after that, which I doubt, that would be the end of this line. It is worth reading for people who have been following this and also maybe have been reading certain articles in the Eagle where it's not really clear that they're presenting 2 sides, but it was a very resounding decision in favor of the EPA, the GE, including the upland disposal facility. It talks about the legality of the settlement agreement and mediation that basically is done under a confidentiality agreement. So as a longstanding member of this group, I felt very satisfied by this. For people who also want to continue, can work on this under the settlement agreement, GE agreed to get started with all of the preparation, all the documents, and they've been pumping these documents out like crazy with such interesting title as Revised Statement of Work, Baseline Restoration work plan and a cultural resources survey. They're all on the EPA website. My article have a link to that. The rest of the River Municipal Committee has commented so far on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these articles, extensive. We are getting environmental assistance from SKIO through an EPA grant, so we can provide complete and we think thorough comments. Most of these letters of our comments go on for 8 or 9 pages. And then just to finish the process, when that goes into the EPA and with deadlines, and anyone in the public can comment on this, then the EPA does a corrective letter telling GE what they have to change in what they submitted, and we go forward to the next document. So the process still continues. There'll be a lot of work going on, even if the citizens group file an appeal with the First Circuit. But I just wanted to kind of bring you up to date on this kind of ongoing issue. All right, with that, let us go to our next item, which is board members. Bob.
I'm good.
Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Renee. First of all, I want to thank Renee Wood for all of the work that she has done over the years, well before I was there, well before we moved here, with regard to the rest of River. This has been a long, arduous process. Renee's put in a lot of time on behalf of our town, as well as the other towns that are involved in a very cooperative communal effort. I was just a very small part of that last year before, but I have some understanding of all of the work that's gone into this. And again, I want to thank Renee for that. The other thing I have is, very briefly, the town hall is opening up, our town buildings are opening up. We're doing, we've talked about the ability to participate now in public meetings and so forth. And I just want to leave all of us with the message that if you as an individual feel more comfortable wearing a mask, whether you've been vaccinated or not, in these meetings, by all means, use your judgment and wear a mask. What will be very difficult for any of us to tolerate is people being criticized for continuing to wear masks when what appears to be the end of this virus or the end of the pandemic, whether you want to call it an endemic or not, people still have the right to wear a mask. And I'm going to do my best to uphold that right for you if that's your personal decision. So that's all I have to say about that.
And we'll continue to provide them in town hall, hopefully library and police station. Yeah, I'm planning to wear a mask. I'm not going to get sick.
I am too.
Thank you, Martin. I appreciate that. I have no comments except to note it's a very special day, 2/22/22. Well, we don't see a day like this for another 11 years, 1 month and 1 day. So we have to kind of be aware of these special dates. So let's go to town administrator items. Rhonda?
I don't have anything, Renee.
All right, let's go to the public. Public comments. So since we have so many people who are not on video, if you just want to state your name and make your comment, let's try and do this. First person, if anyone. Janie?
I just wanted to comment that I live on Silver Street and we have the signs, the speed limit signs, and we have noticed that people are going slower on our street. So I just wanted to share that.
Wonderful. We have one on Ranapo that seems to be a little iffy. The highway department's working on that. And we're not sure that we may not have to send that back as defective. But if you find that they're not working right, please let us know. But I'm glad to hear that. I'm really, really glad to hear that. That's a complete streets grant opportunity, all right, versus the shared street. Pat?
Since you're on that topic, if you're going to replace the one on Ranapo, please consider putting it in a more logical place. It's in the middle of nowhere on a curve where people are not going to be speeding anyway. I'd love to talk about that offline.
Well, the Ranapo one we're talking about is down by the collection of people by Howden Farm. And I'm not sure that there won't be a little bit of money left in the complete streets. And I have registered your interest in having one going into Ashley Falls Village Center. So it's on my list. It's here.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other, Laura?
One of the ones on Silver Street is right by it's as you approach the railroad tracks. And I don't know about anybody else, but I always slow way down for the railroad tracks, you know, because there's a train, because there's tracks, you know. So I'm always going very slow, you know, so I feel like it could be put in a more effective location. Just move it one way or the other a little bit. And
On that one, I'm really deep into this. On that one, you know, that was a recommendation by the police department. And the issue is that before we had some experience with this, there was concern about it flashing into the house that is across the street. So it was not moved. Somebody moved the stake originally down to, then they put the concrete block in and we got to pay again to have it move back to where it was supposed to be. So we're learning, okay? And I think what we're gonna do is, I don't know, but we will continue to get feedback from residents as well as the police department on what seems to work. You know, we try to do our best based on police department and residents' input. So that one's also here, okay?
thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else, public comment? All right, then what I'm going to do is thank everyone for joining us tonight. Our next meeting will be in person in Town Hall. And I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. And again, thank CTSB for recording this.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Roll call vote. Bob Kilmer,
aye.
Martin Mitzoff,
Aye.
Renee Wood, aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Good night.